Okay.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think my identity, I grew up with Christian parents who taught me to love the Lord. Saved at 9. Not long after that, I decided I wanted to be a missionary. It took me to be, I was in my 40s before I ever got to go on a mission trip because I got myself off of whack. But the main thing I think that really has identified my identity and who I am with the Lord and all is that in 10 years span of time, from 2002 to 2012, I had blood clots going to my heart. And in 2002, it happened, and I went in to have the helicopter me over to Greenville. The doctor went in, put the stents in. There was no blood clots there. The prayer chains had started. And the guy, when the doctor got in there, he said, "They are not there." He said, they dissolved, they're gone. I said, "I know what happened." In 2007, I went back in. They sent me back over there by helicopter again. Said I had blood clots again. Well, I get in there, and the same doctor goes in to do the stents. He comes out and he says, "I don't know what's going on with you." He says, "But the blood clots are gone." He said, "From now on," he said, "you are to always carry an EKG with you at all times, your latest one." He said, "Because the next time I might not be your doctor. Or they might not realize, because everything goes on microfilm now." He said, I said, "Well, the prayer chains were started, so that's why it's not here."
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 2012, it happened again. Stephen was at the house with me when it happened. He called my daughter, and she told him, said, "Get the ambulance there." The ambulance came, and they got me. I showed them my latest EKG. She said, "Well, they did the checking me out." He says, "You have blood clots. You've got 3 of them. You've got to go to Greenville." So I went to Greenville again. This time I had a new doctor, Dr. Cristiano. He come in there, and he didn't even introduce himself when he come to my room. He just come in and started talking to me. So I thought he's a little short fella, good looking, but short, and, all. I thought he was my nurse, male nurse. I didn't have any idea he was a doctor, and he come in there and started talking to me, tell me what they were going to do and all, and I said, "Okay." So then he left and went out. The male nurse come get me on the stretcher, and I looked at him and I said, "That wasn't my doctor a while ago. That was my nurse a while ago, was it?" He said, "No." He said, "That was your doctor." I said, "Well, he didn't tell me he was my doctor." And I said, "Can I talk to him before I have surgery?" And he said, "Well, he doesn't usually." He said, "But you can't." He said, "I'll make sure you can." I said, "No, that's okay." But anyway, male nurse took me down there. They put me in the room. They got me ready. Got me on the table, and I was waiting for them to go ahead and, kind of put me to sleep, ease it off, whatever. And they hadn't done it, so all of a sudden Dr. Cristiano comes walking into the room where I'm at, where he's going to operate on me, and they have the TVs up there and all. And he said, "I hear you want to talk to me." And I said, "Yes." I said, "I didn't realize when you came in my room that you were my doctor." I said, "But I want to tell you something." I said, "I know that you say I've got blood clots and I've got to have stent put in." I said, "But I want you to know that if something happens to me while I'm on this operating table, it's not your fault. It's because God decided for me to go home." I said, "So I don't want no guilt on your part
That's good.
if something happens to me." And he says, "Well, do you want to stay awake during this?" I said, "Sure, if I can." He said, "Okay." So they numbed me. I stay awake, and I'm watching it on monitors up there. I don't feel a thing. Don't know anything's going on. And I'm just watching the monitors, and finally he says, "Frankie," he said, "what do you see up on that monitor right there?" I said, "I don't see anything except for where you're trying to get to, where you're supposed to go. I said, so when are we going to get to the stent, the blood clots? He said, that's where the blood clots are supposed to be. He says, and they're gone.
That's awesome.
He said, let me tell you something, Frank. I said, what? He said, God surely has his hands on you. He said, because this is something that amazed me, because he had to have read my notes. He had to remember them up here, because he said, this is the third time you have been in 10 years to have stents put in. And all 3 times your blood clots were gone. He says, they're gone again. He said, God has surely got his hands on you.
Yes.
And I said, well, he's just got something else for me to do yet. I said, I just got to find out what it is. Well, I came home. I've been fine ever since then. But I did find out a little bit about what he had for me to do. I've become involved in Emmaus, and I love it. I love working with the people. I love doing the things with Emmaus. But I've also become involved in prison ministry, and I dearly love it. My daddy was involved in it, and I used to get to go once in a while with him to the youth high-rise in Morganton. The warden would let me go in with Daddy because he couldn't see to drive at night and stuff, so certain times he'd let me go in with him when he was going to be in a group of people. I loved it back then. I loved what the guys had to say about my daddy and what they had learned from him about the Lord. So now I'm in prison ministry. So, you know, that's things that God has showed me since 2012, that he still had a work for me to do.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
And you know, there's bound to be more, but, you know, right now that's the main things that I identify with as, you know, what I was before. I had got to the point before that I didn't know what I was supposed to do next. I wasn't sure, especially after my Lester passed away. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do with him. I wasn't in a church at the time because that church had quit, disbanded. So I was just at a loss. But see, God put everything together, and he put me in a new direction. And he's still using me in different ways.
And he gave her a project to work on, and she's having a tough time.
A lifelong.
She's having a tough time working on this project, I tell you.
You know it's a God-given project when it's bigger than you. And it takes more than you to handle. So there you go.
I had a tough enough before.